Mistress framed the pregnant wife to force a divorce, but it only made the millionaire love his wife more. Ava Carter believed she had the perfect life. Her marriage to billionaire hotel mogul Ethan Carter was a dream come true, a luxurious penthouse overlooking Central Park, lavish vacations, and a future bright with promise, especially now that she was pregnant with their first child. But when whispers of another woman infiltrated her once blissful world, Ava brushed them aside, unwilling to doubt her devoted husband. That is, until one fateful night, when cruel accusations and shattering secrets came to light. Unbeknownst to Ava, a cunning mistress had set a trap so devious that it threatened everything she held dear and would test her marriage like never before. Ava Summers was raised in a modest but loving household in Queens, New York. Her parents, Lorraine and Mark Summers, were hard-working folks who owned a small flower shop called Summer Blooms. From an early age, Ava learned that true happiness came from genuine love and honesty, not from the number of zeros in a bank account. At 24, she met Ethan Carter, a rising star in the hospitality industry, at a charity gala organized by a mutual acquaintance. Ethan, the heir to the Carter Hotels and Resorts empire, had a reputation for being calm, courteous, and surprisingly down-to-earth. Their first conversation lasted hours, covering everything from childhood memories to future aspirations. Ava found herself drawn to his warm smile and earnest demeanor, while Ethan was captivated by her kindness and subtle grace. Before long, they were inseparable. Over the next 2 years, their relationship blossomed. Ava's parents adored Ethan, seeing in him the same values they'd tried to instill in their daughter: compassion, integrity, and a willingness to help others. On Ava's 26th birthday, Ethan proposed during a private dinner on the terrace of his flagship hotel, the Grand Carter, with the Manhattan skyline glittering in the background. Tears of joy in her eyes, Ava said yes without hesitation. Their wedding was a grand affair in a lush garden at the edge of the city, combining the best of both worlds, Ethan's upscale circles and Ava's close-knit family and friends. White roses sourced from Ava's parents' shop decorated every aisle. Champagne flowed as music played beneath a canopy of starry lights. Everyone remarked how the newlyweds were a perfect match, her gentle modesty balancing his confident ambition, her empathy anchoring his daring aspirations. Shortly after the honeymoon in the Amalfi Coast, Ava discovered she was pregnant. She and Ethan shared quiet moments, imagining the joys of parenthood: first words, first steps, and the bright future they would give their child. They agreed to keep the pregnancy a secret until Ava's second trimester, reveling in the intimacy of their budding family. But unbeknownst to them, shadows were gathering on the horizon. Someone watched from the periphery of their blissful life, waiting for the moment to strike. And when that moment came, it would threaten to tear apart the foundation of trust that Ava and Ethan had so carefully built, a challenge that neither their love nor their fortune might be able to withstand. Ethan's rise in the world of luxury hospitality was swift. Having inherited a substantial portion of Carter Hotels and Resorts from his late father, Robert Carter, Ethan proved himself by modernizing the brand and expanding into Europe and Asia. His mother, Elaine Carter, remained an active board member, offering guidance and unwavering moral support. Not surprisingly, the name Ethan Carter began trending in business magazines and tabloids alike. Ava, meanwhile, found herself increasingly in the public eye. Though she preferred a quieter life, volunteering at children's literacy programs or helping her parents at Summer Blooms on weekends, her status as Ethan's wife meant she received invites to red carpet events and corporate galas. At first, she attended these functions with a sense of wonder and excitement, proud of her husband's accomplishments. But along with the glitz came inevitable gossip. Whispers started to reach Ava's ears, rumors of Ethan being seen with a mysterious woman at exclusive nightclubs, of hush private meetings that lasted into the early hours. Some claimed this woman was an old friend of Ethan's, others a new business associate. Ava tried to brush off these rumors as the usual sensationalism that hounded successful men. After all, she trusted Ethan completely. He was devoted and transparent with her. Whenever she asked about his day, he never hid details or changed the subject. Still, the gossip caused a subtle wedge of anxiety to form. In the quiet corners of her mind, Ava couldn't help wondering if the trappings of success would change the gentleman she knew. The stress of running a hotel empire was relentless, and Ethan often returned home after midnight, exhausted. With the pregnancy advancing, Ava found herself needing his emotional support more than ever. Yet, he was increasingly absent. One evening, Ava overheard a conversation at a charity function. Two socialites whispered about Ethan Carter's possible affair, exchanging glances that were equal parts pity and malice. Ava's cheeks burned. Instead of confronting them, she slipped away to the restroom, tears threatening to spill. She admonished herself for being overly sensitive. "They're just rumors," she reassured herself. "Ethan loves me. We're expecting a baby, and we're happy." But as the days passed, the whispers grew more persistent, pricking her confidence like tiny needles. A small voice inside her warned that where there was smoke, there might be fire. Yet she clung to the faith that Ethan was loyal and that if there truly were another woman, he would tell her. Unbeknownst to Ava, the rumors were the seeds of a carefully orchestrated scheme, one designed to plant doubts and cultivate discord. And the woman at the heart of those whispers was no nameless stranger. She was cunning, ambitious, and determined to take Ethan for herself. Tatiana Moretti, a name that quietly circulated among Manhattan's elite, was known for her breathtaking beauty and sharpened ambition. Born in Rome to an influential family, she moved to New York after finishing her studies in international business. With an exquisite blend of sophistication and charm, Tatiana quickly found her way into exclusive circles, charity boards, high-fashion events, and private clubs where influential figures made deals behind closed doors. Even before she laid eyes on Ethan Carter, Tatiana had heard plenty about him. His business acumen, philanthropic spirit, and handsome face made him a near-perfect specimen of success. She set her sights on him from the moment she read an article about his global hotel expansions. For Tatiana, men were puzzles to solve and prizes to collect. She thrived on the thrill of winning them over, especially if they were already spoken for. Her first encounter with Ethan occurred at a corporate gala celebrating the Carter Hotel's expansion in London. Tatiana, wearing a sleek red gown, approached him under the guise of an investment enthusiast. She praised his hotel chain's new direction and charmed him with her knowledgeable insights. Ethan politely listened, his cordial smile unwavering. He thanked her, but made sure to mention his wife, Ava, at every opportunity. Despite his gentlemanly demeanor, Tatiana sensed a challenge. It wasn't going to be easy to ensnare a man so obviously devoted to his spouse. Undeterred, she kept contact with him under the auspices of potential business deals. She studied the Carter Empire meticulously, from its board members to its philanthropic branches. Gradually, she found ways to position herself as an invaluable consultant, offering insider knowledge on European real estate and forging alliances that might benefit Carter Hotels. The more she interacted with Ethan, the more she recognized he was not just another wealthy CEO chasing fleeting thrills. He was genuine, caring, perhaps even too trusting for his own good. Where other men might have flirted openly, Ethan remained steadfastly polite and professional. His unwavering loyalty to Ava fueled Tatiana's obsession rather than deterring it. Winning his affection would be her ultimate conquest. Weeks turned into months as Tatiana played the long game, planting seeds of rumor wherever she could. She befriended gossipy socialites, sharing half-truths that implied she and Ethan spent significant time together. She arranged accidental public sightings, ensuring a paparazzo snapped photos of her walking out of restaurants or hotels shortly after Ethan's departure. Little by little, she wove a tapestry of suspicion designed to make Ava doubt her husband. Yet, Tatiana's plan reached a new level once she discovered Ava was pregnant. For a woman as calculating as Tatiana, pregnancy was an inconvenience she needed to eliminate, one that threatened to solidify the marital bond she sought to break. From that moment, Tatiana's plot evolved from mere seduction to a more sinister game of manipulation and deceit. Tatiana Moretti was no stranger to underhanded tactics. When subtle flirting and rumor spreading failed to crack the fortress of Ethan's devotion, she resolved to escalate her efforts. She took a calculated step, forging a fake friendship with individuals close to the Carter circle, including Ethan's executive assistant, Madison Hale. Madison was ambitious but not especially loyal. She idolized success, craved social standing, and had minimal qualms about bending rules to achieve her goals. Tatiana skillfully manipulated her vanity, complimenting her fashion choices, encouraging her career aspirations, until Madison began to confide details about Ethan's schedule, personal likes, and emotional vulnerabilities. One night over a few cocktails, Madison let slip that Ethan had confided how stressful it was to be both a CEO and an expectant father, especially with the press hounding them at every turn. That snippet of information was invaluable. Tatiana now knew Ethan occasionally felt overwhelmed, a perfect wedge to exploit. But she needed a decisive maneuver, something that would not only stoke Ava's insecurities, but also drive a public wedge between husband and wife. The more scandalous, the better. Her opportunity came when she discovered that Ava volunteered at a local children's shelter. The shelter's director, Miss Blythe, was a bit starstruck by Ava's wealth and connections. Tatiana made a sizable donation in person and expressed eager interest in volunteering. The unsuspecting Miss Blythe introduced Tatiana to Ava, who recognized her name from the gossip columns but, in her gentle way, gave her the benefit of the doubt. Tatiana performed her role flawlessly, modest, well-intentioned, merely wanting to help the community, forging an acquaintance with Ava. Over the following weeks, Tatiana appeared at various volunteer events, always praising Ava's work and dropping little comments that underscored her closeness to Ethan. Statements like, "I remember Ethan mentioned how proud he is of you," or, "Oh, Ethan texted me to suggest I help fund next month's benefit." Each time, Ava's polite smile stiffened a fraction, and Tatiana reveled in the flicker of uncertainty in Ava's eyes. Behind the scenes, Tatiana prepared her masterstroke, a frame up so devastating that Ava's reputation would be destroyed, leaving the pregnant wife with seemingly no choice but to divorce Ethan. If all went according to plan, Ethan would be so distraught and humiliated by Ava's perceived betrayal that he'd find comfort in Tatiana's arms. It was a twisted gamble, requiring impeccable timing and the complicity of people who valued her wealth and influence more than their moral compasses. Yet, all the cunning in the world couldn't account for the depth of Ethan's genuine love for Ava. Tatiana was convinced that she'd engineered the perfect downfall for the unsuspecting wife. Little did she know, her machinations would soon provoke Ethan's fierce protectiveness, forging an even stronger bond between husband and wife than ever before. Ava's pregnancy progressed steadily, accompanied by both excitement and fatigue. By the time she reached her 5th month, she had to cut back on some volunteer activities due to persistent back pain. Still, her dedication to the children's shelter remained steadfast. She found renewed purpose in planning educational workshops and fundraising events, thankful for a distraction from the rumors swirling about Ethan's alleged closeness to Tatiana Moretti. One afternoon, while finalizing details for a charity gala, Ava felt a slight flutter in her belly, her baby's first tangible movements. Her heart melted with joy, and she rushed to text Ethan. "Our little one just said hello. I can't wait for you to feel this too." She yearned for him to drop everything and rush over to share in this precious milestone, but she understood he was swamped. Carter Hotels and Resorts was negotiating a major deal in Shanghai. She placed a hand over her stomach, whispering, "You have a wonderful daddy. He'll be here soon." Moments later, Miss Blythe appeared, looking anxious. "We have a visitor asking for you, Ava." She said, "Your friends?" She stepped aside to reveal Tatiana Moretti, impeccably dressed in a sleek beige coat, holding a large manila folder. Ava forced a smile, unsettled by the abrupt appearance. "Tatiana, what brings you here?" Tatiana's eyes flitted around, carefully noting the decor and staff. "I was in the area. Thought I'd drop by with some potential donor lists for the gala." She placed the folder on the table. "Ethan recommended I help you out. He said you could use all the support you can get." Ava's stomach clenched. The mention of Ethan's name, paired with Tatiana's casual confidence, brought the rumors to mind. Still, Ava thanked her politely and sat down to review the folder. Inside, she found a list of high-profile contacts who could theoretically donate to the shelter. The typed sheet was carefully curated too carefully. Ava noticed each name was an industry titan. Ethan was known to be wooing for business partnerships. The infiltration felt uncomfortably personal. Tatiana, observing Ava's reaction, gave a sympathetic tilt of her head. "I know the tabloids are spinning all sorts of nonsense about me and Ethan," she said in a hushed voice, "but there's nothing to worry about. We're just business associates." "I respect your marriage, Ava." Something in her tone felt disingenuous, a show of false humility. Ava's eyes flickered with confusion and suspicion. "Ethan has never mentioned that you two were working so closely," she replied softly. The tension was palpable, but Miss Blythe, unaware of the subtext, merely smiled at them from across the room. Tatiana gently patted Ava's arm. "It's just business. I would never come between you two." Her gaze, however, suggested otherwise. An uneasy chill ran down Ava's spine. She could sense a threat lurking behind Tatiana's pleasant facade, but she had no proof, no tangible reason to accuse her. For now, Ava was left with a deepening worry that the rumors circling around them were not baseless and that Tatiana Moretti was playing a dangerous game with her family's future. Several weeks later, the annual Carter Hotels charity gala took place in the sprawling ballroom of the Grand Carter. Elegant drapes, shimmering chandeliers, and centerpieces of white lilies turned the room into a dreamlike setting. This gala was not only a philanthropic tradition, but also a major PR opportunity for the Carter brand. Celebrities, business moguls, and socialites flocked to the event, each eager to see and be seen. Ava, radiant in an emerald green maternity gown that showcased her growing belly, moved through the crowd with poise. She greeted old friends, listened attentively to potential donors, and did her best to ignore the pointed stares from those who whispered about Tatiana Moretti. Ethan was supposed to join her. Soon he'd been delayed by last-minute calls with international investors, but promised he'd arrive in time to give a speech. Standing near the champagne fountain, Ava noticed Tatiana slip into the room, wearing a form-fitting silver dress that turned heads. The hush that fell when Tatiana walked by was impossible to miss. Cameras flashed, capturing her every move. She offered a polite smile to Ava from a distance, as though they were the best of friends. Samantha Unguyan, one of Ava's close college friends, leaned in with a concerned whisper. "She's been parading around like she owns the place." And I heard from a couple of guests that she's bragging about meeting Ethan alone earlier this afternoon. Ava's heart sank. Was that why Ethan was running late? She tried to dismiss the thought as paranoia, but couldn't completely banish it. Determined not to let speculation ruin her night, she refocused on chatting with donors and making sure the event ran smoothly. Finally, Ethan made his entrance. Cameras flashed anew as he strode in, exuding calm confidence. Spotting Ava, he rushed to her side and placed a gentle hand on her belly, his face lighting up with pride. That tender display momentarily banished her doubts. She felt relief course through her. But the evening's highlight, the unveiling of a new children's center funded by Carter Hotels, took a dark turn. When the lights dimmed for Ethan's speech, a projector flickered to life. Instead of revealing architectural sketches of the center, it displayed candid photos of Ava in a seemingly compromising situation, leaving a hotel suite with an unknown man. Her face flushed, hair disheveled. Gasps erupted across the ballroom. Murmurs and flashes of smartphones filled the space. Ethan froze at the podium, eyes darting between the projected images and Ava, who stood mortified and confused. Somewhere in the crowd, Tatiana watched, eyes glittering with triumph. She had painstakingly fabricated the images, hiring a lookalike of Ava from behind, staging the hotel hallway. Now, the seeds of suspicion she'd carefully sown threatened to destroy Ava's credibility. The hush in the room turned suffocating as Ethan looked to his wife, a kaleidoscope of emotion flashing in his eyes: shock, hurt, then something else, something far more complex. In that moment, Tatiana believed she had succeeded. Ava was publicly disgraced. All it would take was a single wave of Ethan's fury, and AVA's fate would be sealed. But the next few moments would prove that love, when truly tested, can rise above even the darkest deceptions. In the stunned silence that followed the unexpected slideshow, Ava's pulse hammered in her ears. She glanced around, eyes stinging with tears as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. Those pictures, grainy, poorly lit, yet damning at first glance, suggested she'd been sneaking around with another man. But who could have orchestrated such a horrible stunt? Ethan slowly lowered the microphone. A hush settled like a heavy fog over the hundreds of guests. Journalists, always keen for scandal, pushed forward. Ava saw their phone cameras aimed her way. Her face burned with both fear and anger. Summoning her courage, Ava steadied herself. She turned to Ethan, her voice trembling. "I don't know who did this. I swear it's not real." The sincerity in her eyes was undeniable, but a swirl of confusion clouded Ethan's features. She watched him close his eyes briefly, inhaling a measured breath. Then, to her surprise and the crowd's, Ethan placed a protective arm around her waist. He fixed his gaze on the audience, face taut with controlled fury. "This is a family event for charity," he said, voice resonating across the ballroom speakers. "Whoever set up these images, know this: I trust my wife completely. These photos are a fraud." A wave of shocked whispers rippled through the crowd. Tatiana, standing inconspicuously near a pillar, clenched her fist. This was not the explosion she'd anticipated. Instead of turning on Ava, Ethan was defending her. As the hotel staff scrambled to kill the projector feed, security guards rushed to intercept a suspicious technician who was attempting to slip away. Within minutes, the photos vanished from the screen, replaced by panicked announcements that the presentation was experiencing technical difficulties. But the damage was done. The rumor mill was already in full swing. Ethan quickly ended his speech, stating that more details about the children's center would be released online. Ignoring the cameras and murmurs, he steered Ava away, guiding her out of the ballroom. She could feel his heart pounding through the fabric of his tuxedo. Safely in a private lounge, the door closed behind them, shutting out the clamor. Ava collapsed onto a plush sofa, sobbing. "Ethan, you have to believe me. I've never He crouched beside her, taking her hands in his. "I know," he said quietly, voice thick with emotion. "I've never doubted you for a second, but I need to find out who's responsible for this." Although relief washed over Ava that her husband believed her, an undercurrent of fear lingered. Their public humiliation was sure to make headlines, and the culprit remained at large. Her stomach churned as she recalled the malicious gleam she once glimpsed in Tatiana's eyes. Could this be her doing? If so, how far would she go to rip them apart? Ethan pressed a tender kiss to Ava's temple. "We'll fight this together," he whispered, unaware that the storm was only just beginning, that the woman behind this scheme had no intention of stopping until Ava was forced out of Ethan's life for good. The morning after the scandalous gala, the media was ablaze with sensational headlines. "Pregnant wife caught in hotel scandal, Ethan Carter speaks out." "Marriage on the rocks?" Shocking pictures sparked cheating rumors. True to Ethan's word, the official statement from Carter Hotels and Resorts declared the photos were fabricated and that authorities were investigating. Yet, public speculation soared. As Ava scrolled through social media, she felt her heart sink at the vitriolic comments, questioning her integrity and her unborn child's paternity. The weight of these accusations pressed heavily on her. Ethan mobilized a discreet team of investigators led by Jackson Wills, a retired NYPD detective who now specialized in corporate security. Jackson assured them he'd find the source of the images. Someone with access to the event's technical systems had to plant those files, he explained, flipping through a preliminary report. "We're reviewing CCTV footage and digital traces left on the projector's laptop." Ethan and Ava also turned to their circle of close friends, searching for any clue as to who might have orchestrated this sabotage. Samantha Nguyen combed through gossip circles, listening for any mention of unusual activity. Ava's parents, Lorraine and Mark, offered emotional support and tried to shield their daughter from the swirling rumors. Behind the scenes, suspicion inevitably fell on Tatiana Moretti. Her name kept surfacing in whispered conversations, especially since multiple people had seen her sneaking around with an unknown technician earlier that evening. However, no concrete evidence tied her to the crime. Tatiana feigned outrage at the scandal, publicly condemning whoever dared to harm sweet AVA's reputation. She even sent Ava flowers along with a note, "I hope we find justice for you soon." Still, Ethan and Ava remained unconvinced of her innocence. A hidden desperation lingered in Tatiana's eyes whenever she was near Ethan, an undercurrent of possessiveness that Ava sensed more clearly now. Why else would she so brazenly mention her closeness to Ethan at every turn? Jackson's investigation began yielding small but significant results. Security footage captured a woman in a hooded jacket entering the hotel's AV room shortly before the slideshow. Her face was never fully visible, but her posture and height were noted. The woman paid the technician in cash to leave the room for a coffee break. Although the footage wasn't conclusive, it raised more questions about who might have orchestrated this infiltration. As days turned into a week, the tension in the Carter penthouse grew palpable. Ava's pregnancy left her exhausted, and the added stress made it hard for her to sleep. Ethan, likewise, was torn between comforting his wife and managing the PR fallout. The scandal threatened not only their reputation, but also investor confidence in the Carter brand. And as if the external pressure weren't enough, a flurry of phone calls from well-meaning relatives only stoked the flames of gossip. Yet amidst the turmoil, one thing became clear. Instead of pulling apart, Ethan and Ava found themselves drawn closer than ever, fortified by mutual trust. Little did they know, Tatiana seethed from the sidelines, enraged that her efforts had not driven a wedge between them. She was already planning her next move, vowing that this time Ava wouldn't slip through her grasp. Ava felt her baby kicking more frequently now, a steady reminder of what truly mattered. Each movement grounded her, gave her a reason to persevere through the scandal that refused to die down. She spent her mornings at prenatal yoga or reading up on parenting tips, determined to shield her unborn child from the negativity swirling in the media. Meanwhile, Ethan threw himself into a whirlwind of meetings and calls, attempting to stabilize the public's perception of both his marriage and his business. Shareholders grew uneasy about the ongoing scandal, some hinting that a formal separation from Ava might quell the gossip. Ethan met such suggestions with cold dismissal. "My wife and child come before any business deal," he stated curtly. Tatiana observed all this with growing frustration. She had expected Ethan to confront Ava, to question her fidelity. Instead, he stood by her side like a protective fortress. So Tatiana dialed up her efforts to paint Ava as the manipulator. She whispered to industry insiders that Ava's innocent face was just a mask, that the photos might indeed have a basis in reality, and that Ethan was too blind with love to see the truth. One afternoon, Tatiana visited Ava unannounced, catching her off guard in the penthouse lobby. "I wanted to check on you," Tatiana said, voice brimming with insincere concern. "This whole ordeal must be so stressful, especially for your baby." Ava bristled. "Yes, it's been difficult," she replied, keeping her tone polite. "But Ethan and I are confident the investigation will clear my name." Tatiana's lips curved into a faint smile. "Of course. I'm sure Ethan's loyalty is unwavering." There was a pause. Then she added, "You know, I've been talking to some of the sponsors from the gala. They're worried about how this might affect future partnerships." A flicker of anxiety tugged at Ava's heart. She recognized the subtext. The scandal was eroding the Carter brand's relationships. Before Ava could respond, Tatiana pressed on. "I'm just saying that sometimes, for the good of the family business, certain sacrifices must be made. I'm sure you understand." She left it at that, turning to exit, her heels echoing across the marble floor. The implication was clear. Divorce might be the sacrifice that would calm the storm. Shaken, Ava retreated upstairs to find Ethan, who was pacing in his office. Press releases, spreadsheets, and an overflowing inbox testified to the crisis. He paused to embrace her, as if her presence was the only reassurance he needed. After she recounted Tatiana's veiled threat, his eyes flashed with anger. "She's crossing a line. I won't let her push you into anything." He called Jackson Wills immediately, demanding progress on the investigation. Jackson assured him they were narrowing down suspects, but the final piece of evidence remained elusive. As another day ended, Ethan and Ava lay in bed, exhaustion etched into their faces. Yet they found comfort in each other, talking softly about their hopes for the baby, about simpler times when love was enough to shield them from the world. And though they weren't certain when or how the truth would surface, one fact remained: their unity was proving harder to break than Tatiana had ever imagined. As Jackson Wills dug deeper, subtle clues began painting a clearer picture of Tatiana Moretti's involvement in the gala fiasco. Financial records showed suspicious payments from Tatiana's offshore account to a freelance tech consultant who, conveniently, had disappeared after the event. While it wasn't the smoking gun yet, the circumstantial evidence piled up. Sensing the noose tightening around her, Tatiana decided to escalate her scheme. She secured an off-the-books meeting with Keith Stanford, a tabloid journalist notorious for scandalous exposes. Over an opulent dinner at a private club, she dangled the promise of an exclusive scoop, a shocking tell all that would shake the Carters' world. Stanford, hungry for a story, guaranteed to skyrocket his paper's readership, listened intently. "I have evidence," Tatiana claimed, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Ava Carter's not as innocent as she appears. She's cunning, manipulative. She planned that entire fiasco at the gala for sympathy points." Inside the envelope were doctored documents, forged emails, and contrived timelines suggesting that Ava had orchestrated the photos to gain public sympathy and strengthen her hold on Ethan. Stanford's eyes gleamed with ambition. If this were true, it would be the story of the year. "Why come to me? Why not break it yourself?" Tatiana's laugh rang hollow. "I have a lot of respect for Ethan, but he's blinded by love. If the public sees Ava's real face, maybe we can free him from her clutches." She leaned in. "You run this story, and I'll give you more exclusives, including insider details on Carter Hotel's expansions." The proposition was tempting. Though a part of Stanford wondered how much was real, the potential payoff was too great to ignore. By the end of the night, the pair struck a deal. The tabloids were about to receive a new wave of sensational headlines, complete with forged evidence implicating Ava in a twisted scheme of her own design. Meanwhile, back at the Carter penthouse, a warm but tense gathering took place. Ethan's mother, Elaine Carter, joined them for dinner. She expressed unwavering support for Ava, but concern lined her face. "The press is getting out of hand." "I hear another story is about to break," she warned, gently patting Ava's hand. "Don't lose heart. The truth will come out." Ava, her emotions balanced precariously, nodded. As she helped clear the dinner table, she felt a wave of fatigue that had little to do with her pregnancy. Threats loomed on every side: strangers' gossip, tabloids' greed, and Tatiana's intangible presence. She prayed that, for her child's sake, they'd find the proof needed to end this nightmare once and for all. But that night, as the city lights gleamed outside their bedroom window, Ava found sleep elusive. An unshakable sense of dread gnawed at her. Tatiana was too calm. The storm had not yet reached its peak. Soon, everything would come crashing down, forcing them to confront the darkest secrets head-on. The bombshell story hit the tabloids early Monday morning, splashed across front pages and trending online within hours. Ava Carter's grand hoax: how the pregnant wife staged her own betrayal. Citing anonymous sources and presenting evidence of manipulated photos, Keith Stanford's article alleged that Ava orchestrated the entire scandal to gain public sympathy and secure a larger financial stake in Carter Hotels. The forged emails purportedly showed her contacting the unnamed man in the photos, booking the suite under a fake identity, and instructing him on how to appear on camera, all to humiliate Ethan and present herself as the victim. Ava nearly dropped her phone when Samantha called, voice frantic. "Have you seen the news? They're accusing you of staging it all." The line crackled with alarm. "Please tell me you're okay." Shaken, Ava tried to stay calm. "I'm fine, Sam. I'm with Ethan. We'll address this." But her composure wavered as she relayed the news to her husband. Ethan skimmed the article, anger darkening his features. "Every single thing here is a lie," he growled, slamming the newspaper onto the dining table. He pulled Ava close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I'm so sorry. This is absurd." The hotel board demanded an emergency meeting, worried that the new wave of allegations would devastate the brand. Some members privately questioned if Ava could have orchestrated such a scheme. "Stranger things have happened," one board member muttered, avoiding Ava's gaze. Ethan defended his wife vehemently, but the room crackled with tension. Outside the boardroom, reporters clamored for interviews, cameras flashing. Ava felt her head spin each time she heard her name barked in accusatory tones. A bodyguard escorted her and Ethan to a private elevator. As soon as the doors slid shut, she sagged against the wall, tears slipping down her cheeks. Ethan's phone buzzed. Jackson Wills. "We've traced a payment from Tatiana Moretti's account to a journalist named Keith Stanford," Jackson said, excitement edging his voice. "We're pulling more threads, but we're close to concrete proof linking her to this smear campaign." Ava listened, relief battling with despair. Tatiana's involvement was finally coming to light, but would it be fast enough to clear Ava's name? The damage to her reputation and the toll on her emotional well-being was already immense. Late that night, Ethan and Ava returned to the penthouse, thoroughly drained. She rested her hands on her belly, feeling the reassuring movements of their baby. "We can't let her get away with this," she whispered. Ethan clasped her hand. "We won't," he promised, a fierce determination lighting his eyes. "I love you, and I won't rest until everyone knows the truth." In the days that followed, Jackson Wills dove deeper into Tatiana Moretti's history. He uncovered a trail of manipulations, from past business partners to personal acquaintances. She had discarded once they served her purpose. Working alongside private IT experts, Jackson managed to recover partial data from the technician's laptop used during the gala fiasco. They found lines of code that matched timestamps on a USB drive purchased anonymously, most likely by Tatiana herself. While the evidence piled up, Jackson and Ethan strategized about the best way to reveal it. "We need a definitive smoking gun," Jackson insisted. "Something so irrefutable that no tabloid can twist it. Once we have that, we can publicly exonerate Ava." Ava tried to remain patient, focusing on her prenatal appointments and resting when she could. The constant media scrutiny weighed on her. Paparazzi lurking outside the penthouse snapped pictures at every opportunity, fueling headlines like "Scandalous Wife in Hiding." Despite the negativity, Ava found solace in small moments: a phone call from her mother, Lorraine, who prayed for her every day, a bouquet of sunflowers from her father, Mark, an encouraging text from Samantha, reminding her she wasn't alone. Amid the tension, Elaine Carter, Ethan's mother, stepped in. A formidable woman with a compassionate heart, Elaine had contacts spanning the corporate world and high society. She arranged a private luncheon with several powerful influencers, moguls, philanthropists, and even a few old money aristocrats. Under the guise of discussing upcoming charitable collaborations, Elaine used the gathering to champion Ava's innocence and gently poke holes in the contradictory rumors swirling about. "I've known my daughter-in-law for years," Elaine stated, her voice calm yet firm. "She's a woman of principle. The idea that she'd stage a humiliation for profit is preposterous." Her stance carried weight, and for the first time in weeks, a flicker of hope shone. Some guests looked thoughtful, promising to share Elaine's testimony with their networks. That evening, Ethan returned home with encouraging news. "Investors who spoke with Mom have calmed down," he told Ava, embracing her in the living room. "And Jackson says he's found a crucial piece of digital evidence. We'll know more tomorrow." Ava blinked back tears, pressing her forehead against Ethan's chest. She felt their baby kick, as if urging them onward. The combined efforts of family, true friends, and a determined investigator were slowly turning the tide. Even so, Ava refused to underestimate Tatiana. A cunning mind like hers wouldn't simply fade away. Ava braced herself for the possibility that Tatiana might lash out again if she sensed her grip slipping. But for the first time since the scandal erupted, there was a path to vindication, and that fragile possibility was enough to illuminate the darkest corners of their ordeal. Little by little, rumors shifted as the Carter camp provided proof that the scandalous photos were digitally altered. Tech experts ran side-by-side comparisons, highlighting mismatched lighting and scale, while a statement from the so-called companion in the photos surfaced an actor who admitted he was paid anonymously to stage the entire scenario. Though the mainstream press began retracting earlier headlines, a stubborn pocket of the media continued feeding on the drama. Tatiana Moretti watched her carefully woven tapestry unravel. She'd miscalculated Ethan's loyalty to Ava, and now she risked not only losing any chance with him, but also facing criminal charges for fraud, defamation, and more. Desperate to regain control, she orchestrated one final move: blackmail. She scoured her trove of personal connections until she tracked down an ex-boyfriend of Ava's from college, a man named Jeremy Holmes. Knowing Jeremy had once harbored bitterness toward Ava for ending their relationship, Tatiana offered him a handsome sum to fabricate a story. In a phone call, she laid out her demands, claimed that you and Ava reconnected after her marriage to Ethan, that you met in secret. Confirm all the tabloids suspect. At first, Jeremy hesitated, but the allure of quick cash and a chance to exact revenge on an old flame tempted him. They arranged a meeting in a private lounge, where Jeremy would sign an affidavit swearing he and Ava had a long-running affair. The plan was to leak this document to the press right before Jackson Wills's official press conference that would clear Ava's name. The conflicting stories would muddle the media narrative, overshadowing any exonerating evidence. On a crisp afternoon, Tatiana sat in the lounge, sipping a martini, her nerves humming with tension. She checked her watch repeatedly. Jeremy was late. Anger simmered beneath her polished exterior. If he didn't show, her final gambit would fail, and she'd be left with no recourse but to flee or face the music. Just as she considered leaving, Jeremy finally arrived, looking uncertain. He slid into the seat across from her. Tatiana smiled thinly, sliding a manila envelope with the payoff across the table. "Once you sign the affidavit, everything you want is yours," she purred. But before Jeremy could open the envelope, two large men in suits flanked their table. One flashed a badge. "FBI, Mr. Holmes. Miss Moretti, we have reason to believe you're conspiring to commit fraud and defamation. You'll need to come with us." Tatiana's face drained of color. She fumbled for her phone, only to have it confiscated. Her mind raced. How did they know? A wave of panic engulfed her as she realized she'd walked straight into a trap. Jeremy, who seconds earlier seemed ready to sign away AVA's reputation, now looked at her with wide-eyed betrayal. He stammered, I had no idea, in truth." The envelope of cash was marked and tracked by the FBI, who'd been tipped off by a quietly cooperative Jackson Wills. Tatiana's final gambit crumbled before her eyes, and as she was led away in handcuffs, she glimpsed the stark reality. Her carefully plotted web of lies was at last collapsing upon her, irrevocably. News of Tatiana Moretti's arrest spread swiftly through the same media channels that once thrived on scandalous rumors. But this time, the headlines were different. Tatiana Moretti charged with fraud and defamation, plot against pregnant wife exposed. Carter Hotels clears Ava Carter's name, a vindication story. Within hours, Jackson Wills arranged a press conference on behalf of Ethan and Ava. The grand ballroom of the Grand Carter was packed with reporters, photographers, and curious onlookers. Flanked by a legal team, Jackson methodically presented the evidence: bank transfers from Tatiana's account, recorded phone conversations, and statements from the hired actor. Each piece of data painted a damning portrait of Tatiana's conspiracy to frame Ava and destroy her marriage. Ava, standing alongside Ethan at the podium, waited patiently as Jackson displayed conclusive proof that the infamous hotel photos were doctored. Screens showed side-by-side comparisons, the original base images extracted from stock photo databases, and the manipulated final versions featuring Ava's superimposed face. Gasps rippled through the room as the shocking details unfurled. Ethan clasped his wife's hand, stepping up to the microphone. "My wife has suffered unjust accusations and vile rumors," he began, voice resonating with conviction. "Despite the traumatic ordeal, she has shown courage and grace. I am proud to say that we have emerged stronger. I ask the media now to respect our privacy as we continue to prepare for the arrival of our first child." Ava's eyes glistened with tears, tears not of despair, but of overwhelming relief. She took the mic briefly, acknowledging the unwavering support of her family, friends, and especially her husband. "Love and truth have prevailed," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "To all who stood by us, thank you. May we use this experience to remember the power of honesty and perseverance." Outside the conference room, a different scene played out. Tatiana Moretti, out on bail, scurried past reporters, ignoring shouted questions. Disgraced, her reputation in tatters, she fled into a waiting car. Her once brilliant social standing now lay in ruins, and she faced a future overshadowed by legal battles and public scorn. In the penthouse, Ava and Ethan finally breathed freely. Reporters no longer hounded them with accusations, but clamored for details of their resilience. As the day's whirlwind ended, they found a quiet moment in the baby's newly decorated nursery. Ethan wrapped an arm around Ava, resting a hand gently on her belly. They exchanged a long, affectionate glance that spoke of shared pain and triumph. The truth had finally emerged, and with it, a renewed sense of security blanketed the Carter household. In the weeks following the press conference, Ava and Ethan marveled at the unexpected calm that settled over their lives. With Tatiana Moretti's conspiracy exposed, the media pivoted from hounding Ava to praising her for withstanding such malice. Newspapers ran follow-up pieces on the pregnant wife who refused to buckle under a smear campaign, lauding her grace under fire. Ethan's board members, once wary, offered apologies and renewed their support. Several even remarked that this ordeal showcased the couple's unity and authenticity, likely to bolster Carter Hotel's brand image. Instead of fracturing their marriage, Tatiana's plot had ultimately strengthened it in the public eye and, more importantly, in their own hearts. To celebrate a new chapter, Ethan organized a private baby shower for Ava at his mother Elaine's estate, just outside the city. Close friends and family gathered in the garden, the scent of roses and lavender filling the air. The mood was joyful and relaxed. Laughter, shared memories, and the anticipation of welcoming a new life. Ava wore a flowing pastel dress that accentuated her growing belly, a serene smile lighting her features. She hugged Samantha Nguyen, who handed her a thoughtful gift, a homemade scrapbook filled with pictures of Ava and Ethan's early days together, quotes about love, and letters of encouragement from their friends. Tears welled in Ava's eyes. "This is perfect," she whispered, flipping through the pages. For the first time since the scandal erupted, she felt wholly content. Elaine Carter offered a toast, raising a glass of sparkling juice. "To my son, who proved to the world that love cannot be extinguished by lies. And to my daughter-in-law, whose unwavering dignity inspires us all." Applause rippled, and Ava leaned against Ethan, her heart brimming with gratitude. Later, as twilight enveloped the garden, Ethan led Ava aside. Beneath the soft glow of string lights, he took her hands in his. "I can't promise our life will be free of problems," he murmured, "but I vow that we'll face them together, as equals, always." Ava's eyes glistened, and she placed a hand on her belly. "This baby is fortunate to have you as a father." In the hush of that tender moment, they shared a gentle kiss. It was a testament to everything they'd overcome: deceit, public scrutiny, and personal anguish, and a promise of the love they'd continue to nurture. The mistress who tried to break them ultimately ignited the flames of a deeper, unbreakable bond. And as Ava felt their child move within her, she knew that their story was not one of betrayal, but of resilience, a love story stronger than ever, ready to embrace the future, whatever it might bring. Thank you for joining us on this emotionally charged journey, where betrayal and deceit threatened to tear apart a marriage, but instead proved the enduring power of true love. Ava and Ethan Carter's story reminds us that even the darkest schemes can't snuff out the light of trust, honesty, and unwavering devotion. When a cunning mistress manipulated the narrative, it only drove the couple closer, uniting them in a battle for truth and the well-being of their unborn child. If this tale moved you or offered a glimmer of hope in challenging times, please hit the like button, share this video with someone who might need inspiration, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of courage and perseverance. Your engagement supports our mission to bring heartfelt narratives to life. Thank you for watching, and remember, real love, when tested by the fiercest storms, grows only stronger in its resolve.